Are these little Baofengs outlaw radios? Well, keep watching for more. Hi, I'm Michael, KB9VBR, your host for Ham Radio Q&A. I'm on a mission to inspire and educate the amateur radio community. So if this is your first time watching, please hit that subscribe button. Well, the ubiquitous Baofeng radio. If you're active on VHF and UHF, chances are you probably own one of these. And with a purchase price of around $30, you really get a lot of radio for your money. But if you follow amateur radio news, you might have seen that the ARRL recently reported that the FCC issued a citation and order for the illegal marketing of unauthorized radio frequency devices against Amcrest Industries, LLC, the company that imports Baofeng radios into the U.S. So what does this mean? Are these radios now illegal to use? Are they contraband? Will the feds come knocking on my door if I transmit with one of those? Well, the short answer is no, but let's dig into the story. So, back in 2012, Amcrest Industries began importing Baofeng UV-5R handheld radios. At that time, the radio had was type accepted for FCC Part 90 regulations. That means the radio was to comply with the rules for Part 90 of the private land mobile radio service. Devices that are Part 90 compliant include radios that could be used for business and industrial use and to public safety. And having Part 90 certification means Amcrest could market the radio for business use. But in order to have a Part 90 certification, the radio would have to have specific power limits, frequency ranges, and not be user programmable from the front panel. Baofeng radios, notably the UV-5R, the UV-5RA, and the UV-5RE, did not comply with those rules, and on March 13, 2013, the FCC Enforcement Bureau received a complaint alleging that these models were capable of transmitting on land mobile frequencies using external controls and operating at power levels above those specified by its equipment authorization. Well, the wheels of government move slowly, and so in October 2017, the Enforcement Bureau's Spectrum Enforcement Division sent a letter of inquiry to Amcrest relating those allegations, which follows up and with follow-ups required in January and February of 2018. It should be noted that Amcrest did follow up with the inquiries in a timely manner. In their response, Amcrest stated that the company did begin to market 4 models of the UV-5R series in June of 2013, but ceased doing so of 3 of those models a few years later, although it is noted that they failed to remove those models from the company's website until February of 2018. Currently, Amcrest markets only one UV-5R model, and that's the UV-5R V2+. The UV-5R V2+ is incapable of operating at a power level above its specified equipment authorization, but the model still could operate on restricted frequencies, so the company was instructed to modify all of their inventory currently on order and in the future so that it will only operate on 145 to 155 megahertz and 400 to 520 megahertz. So what does this all mean? Well, it boils down to the radios being granted FCC Part 90 certification. FCC Part 90 is the private land mobile radio service. Part 90 is a licensed radio service, and along with power and operating restrictions, it also has pools of specific frequencies and equipment that the equipment can operate on. A Part 90 radio can't operate on the aviation band, maritime bands, satellite communication services, and federal and military allocations. The UV-5R was essentially an open radio, meaning it could transmit anywhere between 136 and 174 megahertz and 400 to 480 megahertz. Secondly, the UV-5R was capable of operating at 1 and 4 watts. And its equipment authorization permitted it to operate at no more than 1.78 watts on those permitted frequencies. So the radio had no such limitation and could do 4 watts anywhere. This was rectified in the UV-5R version V2+. So the citation requests that Amcrest cease marketing the UV-5R V2 until the device is brought into compliance and states in writing that the models do comply with the applicable FCC Part 90 rules. So can these radios be used on the amateur radio bands? Yes, they can. The amateur radio service is regulated by FCC Part 97, and the rules do not require a Part 90 certified radio to operate on those bands. So you can use your older Baofeng UV-5R and UV-5RA's radios on 144 to 148 megahertz, 2-meter band, and 430 to 450 megahertz, 70 centimeter bands without fear of being in violation. But if you have a newer UV-5R V2 Plus, you're going to notice a slight problem. Notably, the radio will not transmit below 145 megahertz, so that means you won't be able to use it on frequencies in the 144 to 145 megahertz range. That would include 144.39 megahertz for APRS, and also any 2-meter repeater that has an input frequency lower than 145 megahertz. The radio also won't be able to receive any frequency between 155 and 174 megahertz. That means that you can't use the UV-5R V2 Plus as a public safety scanner, railroad scanner, no weather radio receiver. Okay, what about MERS, FRS, and GMRS? Well, this is where things get a little bit murky. The multi-use radio service, the family radio service, and the general mobile radio service are all regulated by FCC Part 95 rules. A Part 90 radio can be used on GMRS, but only Part 95 radios, certified radios, can be used on FRS and MERS. Will you get in trouble for using a non-type accepted radio? Probably not. The FCC doesn't appear to be interested in non-type accepted use on a personal level unless that use is causing harmful and malicious interference to a licensed radio service. So the final word, I believe the Amcrest desire to have a Part 90 certification, but failure to comply with that certification resulted in this citation. There are a flood of non-compliant radios on the market that are and by non-compliant, I mean that they're capable of operating outside of their intended purpose. For example, radios marketed on the amateur radio service can operate outside those bounds. Did Amcrest have a desire to sell radios to public safety, business, and industry? Could this be the reason why they sought that Part 90 certification? You know, I don't think any commercial user would seriously consider a $30 Baofeng for their communication needs. No, I think it was convenient to seek the certification, then to re-engineer the radio for the U.S. market. Other countries have different radio services, rules and regulations, and an operation that might be illegal in the U.S. might be illegal in other parts of the world. This citation could have a chilling effect on radios marketed in the U.S., and we may see manufacturers tightening up their operating frequency bounds. So feel free to use your Baofeng on the amateur radio bands. As a licensed ham, it is legal for you to do so. But these radios are marketed worldwide, and ultimately it is up to you to follow all rules and regulations set forth by your country's wireless spectrum regulatory agency. Well, for more amateur radio articles and information, please check out my blog at www.jpole-antenna.com. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me that big thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Check out this other video that's recommended right here. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Hitting subscribe will notify you when future videos are released. Well, I'm Michael, KB9VBR. Have a great day. Thanks for watching, and 73.